So that's the first one. The second one is called the Canada-European Union Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. You know, they're trying to bore us to death. I am absolutely convinced that they make it boring enough that we'll all say it can't be bad because it's too boring to be bad. But it's called, it was like the Prosperity and Security and Prosperity Partnership for North America. It was a boring title, and they kept saying it doesn't mean anything, and it meant a great deal. But this is the new thing now, is to keep this as quiet as is humanly possible. So the Canada-European Union Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, or CETA, has been being negotiated quietly behind closed doors for about 2 years. And it came out of a meeting between Premier Charest and the Prime Minister and the President of France, Sarkozy, at a meeting held by Jean Desmarais of Power Corporation. And they just completed their very first big negotiations. 200 European negotiators came to Ottawa, and apparently they moved the agenda very, very far, and I'm extraordinarily worried about this. This deal would surpass NAFTA in its scope, in that it is a condition of the European Union that all provincial and municipal public procurement, including public services, have to be included in this deal, or there's no deal. This means that private European service companies would be allowed to compete directly for these contracts and challenge any regulatory barrier that stands in their way. It could affect the management of public pensions. It could open up public auto insurance, public monopolies on alcohol sales, such as we have here in Ontario, to private companies. And it would threaten all bans, all provincial bans against private health care, private social services, private child care. Two biggest water utilities in the world are Suez and Veolia. They're both from France. And Suez and Veolia are totally and completely behind this agreement, and they have, they're licking their lips, let me tell you, because they want to move into North America. They've been chased out of so many communities in the global south because of their horrible behavior, and now they want to get into the more stable environment here in Canada. And that means they could bid directly for contracts, any utility contract on water across the country. The European Union has already stated its goals to eliminate not only any regulatory differences among the provinces, but any freedom of municipalities, school boards, health authorities, universities, or any level of the province to discriminate in favor of local or national companies when spending public money. They would literally have to open up everything. Now, one reason this deal has not had much created much opposition is exactly the secrecy. You're not reading about it in your newspapers. Whenever it is reported, it's stuck back in the business section, way back at the back of the Globe and Mail. The night that it was announced this deal was to go ahead on the CBC, Neil MacDonald talked about it as the greatest thing since sliced bread. He clearly thought it was a great thing, smiled as he said, "Isn't this great?" So you're not reading about this as a controversial kind of thing, and we have to make it controversial. Which is what this tour is about, and why we're starting to really rally and put together a network and a campaign across the country. The other reason you're not hearing about it is because many Canadians think, well, isn't Europe better? It's got higher standards. We want to diversify away from the United States. Isn't that a good thing? Two things to know about that. First of all, it is the service corporations in Europe and the companies in Canada that want this agreement because they want access to each other's markets, and they want to pull down those higher standards. And for Canada, they want the European Union to stop banning our genetically engineered food exports and our hormone-laced beef. That's one of the big goals for Canada. But the other thing to know is that under NAFTA's most favored nation provision, any new access to some new sector that was left out of the last agreement must be given to our American and Mexican partners, so-called partners in NAFTA. So this means if you open up services to European service companies, you have to open them up to big American companies like the private health corporations who've long had their eye on this. There's no redeeming feature about this European-Canada deal. We have to kill it. It absolutely has to go. We have to have an all-out campaign on it. So the third of these three kind of areas that we're really concerned about is the Harper government's proposal to the Obama administration to get it exempted from the Obama administration's Buy American provisions of their stimulus package. As you know, they put a lot of money into starting up rebooting their economy. They lost 6 million jobs over the last year. And understandably, the Obama administration has said, we want this to create jobs for manufacturers as well. So they have said, if you're going to take the stimulus money, you cannot use anything but American steel and American manufactured goods. I understand why they're doing that. And it's just this federal counterpart to the Buy American policies that American states have had for something like 75 years. However, the Harper government is using this crisis to further limit what subnational governments can do. And what he has offered is, he said, we're not even asking for reciprocity. We're not even asking to be able to get into your municipalities and states. We're just saying, let us out of this one-time exemption and we'll give you access to all levels of government. There's a guy named Chris Sands who's a trade watcher in Washington with the Hudson Institute, and he said a while ago that we would only ever get this if the provinces are willing to put long-cherished exclusions on the table. And he said the question is Canada willing to concede everything we want? Well, now it turns out, even if we are willing to concede everything they want, the Obama administration is not able to do this. So now what they're talking about is having the provinces sign up to the procurement agreement of the World Trade Organization, which would then permanently open us up to both American and, of course, other countries. And this is a very, very dangerous thing to happen, and it is all happening very, very quickly. So here's where we are. We're at the beginning stage of a campaign to tell Canadians about what this is all about and to put together a campaign in this province but across the country as well to turn this back. Together we have what I call the perfect storm of trade and investment deals whose sole aim is to remove the remaining abilities of subnational governments right down to school boards and hospitals to use public taxpayers' money in a way that promotes fair trade, public values, and environmental sustainability if any of those rules interfere with the interests of these corporations. Just as an example, Ontario has this Green Jobs program where they will give money for conversion to wind and solar, but you have to put a certain amount of it into investing in Canadian jobs and Canadian manufactured or energy alternative technologies. That would all be challengeable. You could not maintain that kind of local protection. I don't know if any of you heard it today, but I was on a debate on CHCH at 5:30 with a young woman from, she interned at the Fraser Institute. She's home on maternity leave, and she just kind of spouted capitalism 101 mantra, and everything was good, and this is the best thing, and she said, NAFTA left a hole that we have to fill in, and the hole was that what I was talking about, the fact that these subnational governments were left out. And she said, why would you want to not have the cheapest goods possible? Why would you not want to, open up every level of government and every level of service to competition, so we have the cheapest services and the cheapest goods? And I said, because we wouldn't have anybody left to buy them. That's why everybody has to go to Walmart.